Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, kindred spirits. I am Chelsea S. Porter, the Executive Director of Kijiji Chat, and I am looking for Mr. TJ Muhammad. Let me just allow them to join us. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Great and satisfied.
I'm loving this shirt you have on.
Thank you. It's one of my favorite shirts when I go to teach the kids.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
It looks like Ken is joining us as well. There he
Hey,
is.
Ken.
Hello, hi,
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
So, my name is Chelsea S. Porter. I am the Executive Director of Kijiji Chat, and we are joined today with TJ Muhammad and Ken, who is the Operations Manager of Kijiji Chat. I will allow you to introduce yourself, Ken, and I will try and be quiet.
Okay, so my name is Kirt. I'm the Operations Manager at Kijiji Chat. I'm also a musician. I rap, sing, produce music, and write music.
Nice.
Yeah. So who is TJ Muhammad?
TJ Muhammad is a Ghanaian-born artist trained in one of the art schools in Ghana, Ghanata College of Art and Design. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I cut across various mediums in order to communicate my message. And my whole process is about myself. It starts with myself, a personal story, and then moves on to community. So I'm deeply rooted in community projects, and I explore various themes in my work that has to do with society and community.
Amazing, amazing. So what are you currently working on?
Yeah, currently I have two projects going on. One is a solo show that opened on March 30th at Casita Maria. It would run until August 18. It is situated on one of the schools in the Bronx, in South Bronx. So this show is set to address like parental issues, or it also encourages parents to read to children. So I'm using a lot of collage works, mainly paper, for these projects. And each week the show serves about between 100 to 500 kids in the building, because it's a learning center, it's an after school program center. So it serves a lot of youth from, I think, from middle school ages. Some of them are even younger than middle school. So it serves that all the way to high school, and then the outside community as well. And the most recent project, which is few minutes from my studio in New York, is the baobab tree, which is one of my a dream come true for me since I started doing the sketch, because it's an idea that developed through my own childhood story and images that I see through my life. And I'm excited to see this project. I know we would be talking more about it, so I would not go deep in talking about the Baobab Tree of Life project, which It's highly supported by the Beam Center, the New York Commission on Culture, the Van Cortlandt Park, and various foundations I don't have off head, but it's a highly supported program.
Amazing. So I know there's a lot we can talk about, but I would love to start with how you started. How did you find yourself in this, like in this arena?
Yeah, I would go very fast in this journey, but please feel free to bring up anything that I don't go into detail in it. I grew up in Ghana. I was born in Kintampo, which is in the middle of Ghana. And then I grew up in Accra, which is the southern part of Ghana. And my parents migrated from Nigeria, but my entire history of ancestral history starts from Ethiopia, heading back to villages in Nigeria, and then it links back to Ghana in the northern region, the border town towards Burkina Faso, which is Baku. So through that journey, my journey in Ghana, I've been traveling and moving back and forth. But the art itself started at age 7. That is what I remember of myself, like consciously, and also my elder siblings who would narrate stories of what I used to do. So going back, it's age 7 was my year of consciousness of art, or what I was doing. Although I didn't see it as art, I just enjoyed it as something that I would make to be happy. And it all started in a boarding school called St. John's Preparatory School. I went to a boarding school from first grade until I completed my high school project. But this was, now when I mention boarding school, it's a Catholic boarding school. I loved it. Everyone in the school loved it. But now when I mention boarding school, some, out of context, my boarding school was out of love that I went there. My parents took me to that school out of love and the foundation they wanted to root in us. I'm born Muslim. I'm a Muslim. Very proud of that. All my family are Muslims, but I attended a Catholic school from like first grade. So that would give you an image of what my family is. My family is very open to having us explore. Although we are Muslims, we have to also engage with other religions and other cultures to see what is out there. And it was very fun. I believe part of that is why I'm making projects and going into various communities without hesitation. So I went to Ghana College of Art and Design. I graduated as, if you ask me about any award I'm very happy about or passionate about, is I graduated as the best painter of my alma mater. And that is the most prestigious award that I always celebrate, regardless of anything that I receive in the arts. Because to graduate in Ganata College of Art and Design with such an award means the school is entrusting something to me to represent them in wherever I go. So how do I stay committed to this award and not let the school down? So that tends to be my firewood for for fueling my journey. And each time I remember that, I want to make sure I'm fulfilling this role as entrusting to the ones that are coming after me, and then the ones that came before me, to make sure that I'm fulfilling this part. I grew up in a place where, relatedly, I know there are people watching all over the world, but relatedly, it would be a place that like the Bronx in the US, but this place is called Nima. And out of love and migration of people migrating to the US, they coined the name Boogie Down Nima. So it's a neglected society, very close to one of the richest societies in Ghana, in Accra. Nima is few minutes away, and I see Rufai, who is one of the artist from Ghana, and yeah, he was, one of the I would say friends. I call them all friends who grew up in my studio, in our studio in Nima. So Nima happens to be kind of a place where, in societies like red line, there were red line societies or bad neighborhoods and places where you would say, oh, nothing good will come out of Nima. But Nima is known for passion of everything that we do. We're very passionate. If whatever you see a Nima boy or a Nima girl or anybody from Nima do, they're passionate about it. And art tends to be my escape from anything that I see around the world that conflicts my ideologies. So art tends to be my sanctuary space, and I would be making art whenever I'm home, whenever I'm in school. But I walk a lot in Nima, and I used to be with people that we'll call Kubolo boys, as the nicknames, which will be a vernacular word for street boys or scraps. I'm sure in Kenya there is a huge community of these groups where you would go on the street or in the garbage looking for scraps of metal, aluminum. Yeah, I used to be number one in that. So I believe my love for working with found object started from the trash that I was collecting and selling for cinema tickets, because I didn't get the chance at home to go to like cinemas or to mingle with boys in the wood. So I would dress nicely at home, like I'm going to see a friend or I'm going to do something nice. And then I would just sneak out and change my clothes and meet with my fellow age mates when we were home from school vacation. And that is how everything started. I entered Ganata. From Ganata, I worked. Everything that you see me doing now in my art, I got it from Africa. And I'm very proud to say that all the time, that Africa has the best of everything, regardless of how the West or wherever continent sees us. And when I moved to the US, I always said constantly that I was an already made artist before I got to the US. So whatever I'm learning in the US, it's just to enhance my process like everyone would do wherever you are in the world. But I'm proudly and very confident of what I've learned in Ghana, in Africa, to be the core value of what is moving me around today. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm saying it out of love, out of gratefulness, and out of pride of my own continent and Ghana and the old people I grew up with. And this is to say we have got great things in Africa, and whatever you see us doing around, we are not going around the world doing out of seeking. We are doing it out of giving our love that we go. That is why we travel out of Africa to go work in communities, to go make art, to go work in businesses. We are giving, we are not going to take. No, we're giving our knowledge and wisdom to the West.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm getting that there's a lot of backstory there to who TJ Muhammed is, and I love it. What I would like to ask though is, what is your approach towards art, and like how do you feel people's lives and ideas and their perceptions have been altered by how you approach your art?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a very deep question. I appreciate it. I will try to do justice to it, but you can bring it back if I'm not doing very good with that question, because it's a very deep question. Yeah. My approach, like I mentioned earlier, starts with a personal story. So I look at the community, I look at my own self, my own family. It's like looking inward. And then whatever I find troubling or joy, I tend to communicate it outside. But in societies that I do not get that, I do what we call the story circles. So I do story circles in the beginning of projects to learn about a specific place. when I moved, I would be talking a little more about the US from 2013 because that was when I moved to the US. And I've been living here for a while, but I go home to Ghana and most part of Africa every year. That is my ritual. I have to go every year. So in 2013, when I was in the US, maybe 2014, when I started my project, I wanted to learn about the society. So I used an approach, which is the story circle approach. I would do a story circle where people would come from various places. We either cook or I cook or we buy food from outside. And then as we eat, we begin to share ideas. And this is a concept from Africa. In Ghana, I mean, Kenya, you might know it also in another way. But in Ghana, we call it Tintontin, Yenumsa, Neye Fadrin. Like we are sitting in, it's a tree language I'm speaking now. I'm Hausa, by the way. But it says we're sitting around in a circle, drinking wine while we're sharing ideas. So I use this concept as a way of mimicking the Sankofa symbol, which is a symbol of looking back to your roots or your ancestors to inspire generations. So I would do that and then get more ideas from the same public. And then I would go back to my studio, look through the ideas, the stories, and then develop projects out of it. And then I would again invite the community to be part of my process of making. So my audience become participants, but at the same time, they are collaborators in what I do. So like the Baobab Tree, it's a project that started from my own sketch, from childhood memory, from looking at what my contribution would be to my ancestors. And then I started thinking about where I am now in terms of demographics. How do I say this in a way that they would understand? Then I did the story circles. Whoever was part of the production brought their own stories, and that is how it's been moving. My Ubuntu I am because we are project, which is inspired by, started the inspiration from my mom. Also, I use this same process, Ubuntu I am because we are. What is that? What does that mean? How do you infuse this into a community that do not know this? And then through that, it becomes a process of going to the studio, going back to the community. So I become the voice of the community. At the same time, the community becomes the amplifier for my voice. So I'm amplifying what the community put in me, and then the community tends to be the overall amplifiers because they are more in numbers than I am. So that is my process, my approach, and I would decide what material to use for a project when I start the thinking process. Sometimes I just collect materials. I don't know why I'm collecting them, but like Steve Jobs said, you connect the dots going backward, not moving forward. So going backward, I remember I collect all these scraps from Ghana. So, today I'm working with scraps. Yeah, maybe I started all of this on the trash, on the refuse dump of Ghana. And now I'm trying to convey this message of turning something that is trash into wealth. But not only the physicality of the material, but also the conceptual aspect of this material. I don't want to talk about spirituality. I will talk about it more when we head into the Baobab, decoding some of the elements in the Baobab.
Okay, so there's a lot of message you're trying to convey, and a lot of art which you're displaying and showing to the world. There's a lot of concepts there, and at the moment we also have these issues that are currently we are dealing with in general as humans. So one of them being racism, and we are Black people. Do you feel like any of these issues or other similar issues have taken effect on your work process, on the delivery of your messages, maybe how your message ends up to the consumers. Yeah, how do you feel that has affected your practice?
Yeah, it's affected my practice very deeply because, you know, I'm deeply rooted in community.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm to start a project in a community, I do what every corporate society would do. I have my own like plan. I call it the pyramid. I put my idea into a pyramid that I already designed for myself, and then I break it down into branches and layers. I'm using the pyramid because of its aesthetic and conceptual meaning to the African continent. I try to stay within my own continent and meaning within my own self to look for answers before heading out. So I put this idea into it, and I would talk about one idea that the last project I did in Ghana in terms of community was working collaboratively with seamstress and tailors from one of the largest markets in Ghana, the Kantamanto market, where I made a huge T-shirt with support from all my community members. The names are a lot. I appreciate you all for being part of that project, and all the community of the marketers who supported it. So the whole concept was the community was suffering from politicians who were kind of burning down the marketplaces, only for them to move these marketplaces far away in the community. So there would be out of nowhere fire in the middle of the night. Recently this year or late last year, another one happened again in Ghana in another region, Kumasi. But this one happened in Accra, and these are people I work with. I used to have a clothing line in Ghana where I make clothing for corporates and schools. And I work with these communities from the marketplaces, the seamstress and tailors. But through that, their market was burned down and their shops collapsed. I wanted to respond to that. So I called them collectively and did a project that amplified their own verse with a chant written on this T-shirt. The T-shirt came to be about 25 foot high, because when we put it up in the story building, it took about 3 floors of the story building rolling down with a message on it that was stitched about what the countermantle market needed and how it sparks conversation. Through the installation process, we had the chance to talk with a lot of people, and then they saw the outside support that was coming to them. So in a way, you are infusing you're making a political statement. At the same time, you're criticizing the political system of that demographics. So in all of that project, then in the US, when I started with all of this, racism was a big deal. 2014, I started a project, but 2013, I started it in Ghana. I went to Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Trinidad with this same project, Ubuntu I Am Because We Are, that talks about the highly and appreciated roles of women in societies, and also acknowledges them and points to the direction of women and their role in society, and how do we support them and encourage and applaud them versus ignoring them. So this was how the project was about. So through that, I do the survey. This is what the corporate would do before a project is implemented in a society. There is a pre-survey and after an approach. So there's a pre-survey that comes before my project goes to a community, and there's one that comes after my project, not in between and after. So I have 3 surveys, but the major ones are just 2. The one that comes before, what do this community need? What do you need? What is affecting you? Okay, there's a lot of racism happening here. In the time of George Floyd, I was very instrumental in doing the Black Lives Matter mural. Although Black Lives Matter mural everyone has their own interpretation of it, but I'm looking at it from the humanitarian aspect versus the political aspect that is within it, because some people are saying it's a political movement. Well, that is not my goal. My goal is to look at the human impact or the effect, how it's affecting community. So that is what I tend to face or look at. And then we did a lot of projects around there. But this pyramid that I do through my survey is to see what impact would this project be for the people on the base of the pyramid. Maybe people watching who are, you know, the base of the pyramid. How am I going to support and help people from the base of the pyramid? People from the base of the pyramid are the ones that of my majority, because there are a lot of them over there. But as the pyramid goes up and up, that is where you class it into. The base would be like the community and everyone else. It goes up, and then the audience begin to reduce. But when the audience begin to reduce, there's also an impact. That's where you have the institutions, the museums, and then you're going up and up. You have the galleries, and you go up and you have the final consumer of a piece that is consumable through an object, which is the collector. When the collector grabs this, it becomes a monetary value to the creator, which is the artist. But the piece is hidden in a private collection. So a piece that is meant to talk about the people from the base of the pyramid, why is it that when it gets to the top of the pyramid, it's hidden in a collection? So before my artworks goes out, I have to create various projects around it. It's not only the project, it has series of workshops, it has series of talks, it have a lot of educational programs that goes around. So when this piece get hidden at the top of the pyramid, it's still working within the middle and the bottom of the pyramid to satisfy the same audience that gave the idea for me to make this piece. So that is, you know, my process and how the consumer ends it. Although the consumer would consume it, the concept will still be manifesting within the community.
Yeah.
So it becomes an endless project.
Oh, sounds amazing. So, working with the community.
Yeah.
Because when you're telling this, you're expressing your message. There's always gonna be a side that doesn't agree with your message, and one that agrees with your message. How do you stay relevant to both? Because we can't say, because you don't agree with my message, I want to try to tell you what I have here, or to show you. How do you deal with these groups and avoid conflict and still maintain that relevance to the people who matter most to that mission?
Thank you for that. It reminds me of a question about when I was doing a talk for a PhD student in Arizona University who it's a similar question, but you rephrased it in a way. So the core value of a project, of my projects, is love. That is the core value. So once I'm creating a piece out of love, and then the goal of the project is to amplify the love of a community. Definitely, if you are on the right side, you would forever have people who would be opposing to you. But my advice to my students and comrades and families is that just stick to your part. As long as you know you've done your research, you've done deep thoughts over it, you've done all your meditation, those who are on the wrong side, on the other side, who tends to be your opposition, will definitely be part of you one day. But you should know that as a creator, you are already advanced in your mind. You're very far away. Sometimes you are 20 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years ahead of your community when you're doing this creative work. So whatever you start creating now, just remember that if you have an opposition, put them in the category of those who might be in the 20 years to come, people, or the 100 years to come, because you are a visionary. So what the idea that you have today, if Celsius in this call, but I'm very sorry I'm going to use you for this, but let's say Celsius comes out to oppose a project, put her in the category of people who would understand this project 100 years to come. As you develop the project, her support for you would begin to increase little by little, and then her 100 years will begin to reduce to 50 or 20. So all the opposition, do not think about them. If you think about your opposition, and you will never do your project. Just put them in the category of people who would come 100 years later or 50 years later to understand your thoughts. And then that would be your energy to keep doing your project. But if Celsius, you bring out the project today and Celsius jump onto the project, then you will see as, wow, she already sees what I'm seeing in 100 years. So she becomes my partner in thriving. And then she becomes your good friend, your source of energy, your conversation point, whatever. Even if you are stressed up, just call her and be like, oh, this is what came up on the news. Because you both are on the same mindset, she's going to uplift you. And then through that, you become instruments of change to your community. They would not support you today. They would hate you for what you're doing. But remember, you already put them in a category. In 2040, they will come back and say, oh, wow, Ken did this project 20 years ago, and we never got it. This is what would tell you that Ken was ahead of the community 20 years, but the community did not see it. It's very difficult for what we are doing, especially if you say you're going to do a community project. It's suicidal. It's like you coming out to tell your family, beside me doing art that you don't love, I'm also going to commit suicide. So that is what community work means.
Okay.
And you would just be stretched up. It will get to a point. There was a point I was doing a project in Staten Island, and I was dressed with a placard on my body in the middle. If you go on my website, it would be in the project that would be maybe 2022 to 2013, somewhere 2012, and I was in the ferry area. It was very, very cold. A lot of people were visiting from Chicago, and you know Chicago is also very cold. And that year was recorded as one of the cold times in New York. And I would have friends whom I call them friends because they were black like me, and we all had accents, but they didn't understand what I was doing. It's like, you're wasting your time. But what I was doing was I was surveying. I was building up a survey, because I knew I was going to stay in the US to do a lot of work from the US before I move from the US to another place. I'm in US because I'm going to move out of the US. I'm not going to stay here for the rest of my life. But there is a message. Every prophet comes to a people at a particular time. I'm here for a reason. I'm here to build up for a reason. After a while, definitely I'm an artist who has to move around to influence in other places and to spread out the web. So I'm going to definitely move out of here. You ask me when, I don't know, but definitely I have a dream and vision for Ghana. I'm going to start that and then move around Africa and a lot of places. So community work, ideas that would nourish society would definitely be highly criticized. Just use them as a source of energy, and you would keep striving.
Okay. So you mentioned something about artists having to do these ideas and accomplish them, even if because we find ourselves working on ideas that are going to be relevant to people in the future, maybe 5 to 10 years from now. Do you feel like artists need more support in this, because we are not we might not be properly equipped to make to like convey these messages, because sometimes I find that we have to dumb our message down for it to be understandable to other people. How do you deal with that? Do you feel like it damages the message or distorts it?
I'll give you a first scenario before. So I was advising a group of, I was a laundromat project. It's a community organization, laundromat project. I was one of the resident artists in the Bronx around 2017 or 20, yeah, that way. And later years, I was invited to advise the grantees, the applicants for this project. And I told them my secret. I said this, and I'm going to share that with you too. Sometimes when you have a message, right? Some of the message is too strong to feed the society. So I don't drink alcohol, but I'm going to use this again. Somebody who drinks alcohol, some people could take like one tiny shot and just get drunk. Some people would keep drinking and drinking until before they get drunk. And there are some alcohols that it's designed for you to take a tiny shot and it would just collapse you. Now, I told them the similar process. You're applying for this grant or you have this amount of money coming in, but you have this project that is so strong for this group of people to understand. No worries, decode it and have them in stages, in levels, and just feed them with it drop by drop. Before they realize, they get intoxicated with your idea unknowingly. So what I'm saying is, if you've met the people to present your project, do not tell them everything that is in the project. Hide certain elements of the project and just give them these beautiful colors they want to see. My exhibition at Casita Maria, if you see the show, oh, it's beautiful, there are kids playing and doing it, but when you get closer to the work, then you begin to see political statement, childcare statements that is criticizing the environment. So the closer you get, then it begins to hit you. And then by then you've already given up your love to it. So you have to try your best to make sense out of what you are reading in the pieces. Similar project, I'm building the American flag. I take scraps of fabrics from the street, from seamstress. I'm building okay, there was a little distraction. I'm building the American flag with scraps of fabric. First of all, I'm thinking if I just tell them that this flag is about celebrating the Africans and then the hard work that we are doing in the US, they're not going to like that.
Sorry, can you repeat that again? Sorry.
Okay, I'll go back a little bit and see. So I'm saying I finished with a project that I was talking about from Casita Maria, and now I'm talking about a project that I started with the US flag. So I'm going to do the US flag. I started thinking about it. The message is too strong because it is to celebrate Africans and Black and everybody living on minority in the US. But if I go straight with this message, not everybody is going to understand or support the idea. So I first go with all the bright and beautiful colors on the symbols, do my beautiful flag. When you come closer to the piece, then you would begin to ask questions. There are fabrics from Trinidad, India, and various communities. Then I would begin to decode it and said, yeah, there is police brutality. In Staten Island, 2014, I was living in that community around that time. A guy was killed stabbed and killed. Forgot the name, but in Staten Island, the one who was killed in front of the store, they stabbed him on the floor. So the piece is addressing all of that. But if I start with that, they are not going to understand it. So I have to find a common ground. Sometimes we artists, I know we have pride, and it's like that. We created something and we want to give it to society. Just think about how you can make it, you can minimize the concept and put it in steps and layers. And as people begin to come closer, you begin to intoxicate them, and then you begin to send them deep to think about it. That it is not just what you see on the surface, there are things behind it. Other times we have financial issues for a project where we cannot do a project. It's okay. Think about what project you can do now and save those big projects. The baobab tree is a project. When I sketched that project, I don't have the money to do it. Even up to now, I'm not the one who did it. I was paid for my design. People came in, permit, everything was taken care of because it is on a public art level. But it was only an idea I had. When I went to present the project, I presented the project without the baobab tree. And if anybody from Beam Center is watching, they would remember I told them, this is not the initial idea. The initial idea of what I'm presenting to you is supposed to be a tree. And this is the meaning of this tree that would be in the middle of the Adinkra symbols, which is the broken tiles around it. But in the sketch, it was another symbol I put in with colors, and it's shooting up a black star. But when I did the presentation, I told them, this is what I presented. This is why you called me for another level of discussion, because you know, it's stages of progress. You go through the first level, you go through second level, and you keep going until they take the first one, the one that would win the award. And I told them, yeah, this is the idea. I showed my sketchbook. I opened my sketchbook and said, this is the actual idea. It's supposed to be a tree in the middle of the Adinkra symbol, which has a meaning similar to what I have. But I didn't have time, and I didn't have the resources to put together a good rendering for you. That is why I gave you the concept. I gave you another idea that would be in the middle of these tiles and these Adinkra symbols. But this is the original idea, and I closed my sketchbook. And later they came back and said, oh, the baobab idea, are you willing to give us more? And I said, yeah. By then, you know, these are the layers that I'm saying of intoxication. You give them little by little, and then you can show them, this is where I'm going, and you close your thing back. We are artists, but we also have to be businessmen. We also have to be philosophers. We have to be scientists. You have to, as an artist, you have to be everything. If you're a musician, you cannot just go and be singing about love, 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 love. People will be tired about you. But if you sing about love and you infuse some political statements within the love, then they will hear the love message, but it's deeper than what they're thinking. So you keep them to you all the time. They'll be like, oh, don't worry, you just listen to the first, second chorus of Ken. By the time you get to the third one, he's going to give you something that you would go away with. And they stick to you. So sometimes it's a money issue. This is a project that is over maybe 50,000. I wouldn't have done this project, but I was very honest when I came to the panel. This is my project, but I didn't give you all of that because I didn't have the resources to put it together. And they came back and took that idea, which is what we are seeing out there for everyone. Because like-minded mind, remember I used Celsi for two scenarios. The one that would understand you today and the one that would not understand you until 10 years or 100 years.
Awesome, awesome. So you mentioned baobab trees. There was the baobab tree project that you installed,
Yeah.
and you also mentioned roots, how connected you try to be to your roots. I'm trying to bring them together, and can you please explain to us how the baobab tree project connects to your roots? Because in Africa, the baobab tree is so it's a big part of the land. For instance, in Kenya, right now we are dealing with the baobab issue.
Yeah.
We have people in Kilifi cutting down the baobabs and selling them. They say that they take too much space. They use a lot of water, and yeah, and you're doing a baobab tree project. So how does it connect to all of this?
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to appreciate you again. I might not be able to pronounce it well, but Kijiji Sana for this project, and I appreciate Chelsea when we had a short talk. You brought out this amazing organization to my to the forefront of my thoughts, and you again mentioned what was happening in Kenya. I'm I was very disturbed hearing that because it's like I know slavery, in various forms are done, it's done, but now it is done in different phases, and there is kind of like a trick in doing this modern slavery, and
Mm,
our ancestors, some of them were tied around these baobab trees. So that is the only image they have of them resting or sitting around these baobab trees. And you took them out of that continent to another continent. And now
mm,
you're uprooting these trees and taking them to the West again. So it's like conceptually, you're bringing this memory, these disturbing memories to them because some of them came and could not stay. They had to pass away. But we that came generations after them, you're bringing us this horror again for you to say, yes, this is the trees that we tied your ancestors to, and up to tomorrow we're going to continue on tying you. Now I'm not even talking about the financial aspect because whatever you see happening today, there is a spiritual element to it. Just like Africans are deeply rooted in spirituality, the West and other cultures and civilization are also deeply rooted in it. But they would find a glass to put around it for you not to see what is inside. But because a lot of Africans, we are very passionate about it and sharing, we would bring you the spirituality part outside. And
mm.
then people would find the beauty in the spirituality and find ways to cripple that and take it away from us. My whole process is inspired by the Sankofa symbol, which is the Sankofa is a tree language, which means going back to your root. And then to seek, in my own words, I say going back to your root to seek knowledge, wisdom, to nourish this society and inspire generations that would come after. So whatever idea I have, I have so many stages and ways of working. Some of them very abstract, but I would put this idea into the Sankofa symbol. What am I going to take from my past, from my ancestors? This piece is honoring my ancestors, and the baobab tree that you're seeing here has Adinkra symbols surrounding it. Each
Mm,
symbol has its own conceptual, spiritual, and physical beauty as you see it. So it is a being on its own. It's just like the three of us and everyone watching. Every symbol you see in Africa is a living thing. So it's not just a symbol. If you put it on yourself as a tattoo or whatever, it is a living thing. It's just like you are carrying a dog or your pet, like your cat or a son, a daughter, with you all the time. So we should be aware of the spiritualities involved in it. when I was designing Black Lives Matter mural in front of the courthouses, I used these symbols because I wanted to bring my culture to the foregrounds of the American culture and courthouses. But I want to honor my ancestors who were lying very few blocks away from the the mural, because the main one I knew at that time was the one downtown, which is the African burial ground with all the symbols. That is the one I knew. So I used that as the source of connecting myself to my own self. And everyone's ancestor is their generation, is the roots of how they became. So if our ancestors, some of them decided that for me to be enslaved in the US, I would rather jump into the Gulf, into the ocean to commit suicide. They are not committing suicide, by the way. We're just saying it as a form of words. But that is not committing suicide. They are committing freedom, because whoever is, in our modern terms, whoever that is dead is living infinitely. You are living without death. But before you live in this our modern world, you personally have to commit that suicide, the suicide of killing your own self, the suicide of knowing that I am not existing, and the suicide of knowing that Ken is not existing without me. I am not existing without Celsi. We are all the same people tied to one. So you have to commit that suicide of knowing that TJ, Ken, Celsi, whoever is watching does not exist. Only one exists, and that one is existing through you. So only one exists. Now, this one that exists, whoever that die, commit suicide, is being shot, is being killed on the street. All these people are now becoming more freedom, because the moment they bury you in your grave, you are now going to live forever and fly and go wherever. So our ancestors who jumped into the water, they did that because of you, myself, and Chelsea, and everyone watching. They did that for us because they want to be able to move and fly and come wherever we are to be able to support us. So let's all be mindful of that, that these people are not dead. They are living behind a veil that is put on our eyes. We cannot see them, but they surround us. They are more than us. So when I'm thinking about all these people, I'm saying, how do I connect this mural into a physical artwork? Then I develop another artwork and put them in the African market. And then later the baobab tree came in. The baobab tree, each level of the baobab tree becomes another level of either deeping you into the ocean or taking you up into the sky. Regardless, you're going to attain some knowledge. We all know the myth. I don't like to call it myth, but because of this conversation, we all see the myth of how the hyena threw the baobab, and then the baobab landed with the roots turning to be its branches, and then it landed upside down. So the roots, it's in the ground, and then we're saying the branches that we are seeing, it's also another roots, but because it's in the sky, it becomes leaves, which makes the baobab a three-dimensional tree, which because the baobab is living in the sky as
and
the root.
in the ground.
Yeah, it's living in the sky and in the ground, because the ones that we see in the sky has the leaves. The one that is under the ground has no leaves. It has the roots. But in the concept, in the story of the baobab tree, when the hyena threw the baobab tree, it landed upside down. Why do you think something would lie upside down? Because what is in the ground is also another living. So what we think as the roots is not only the roots, it's also leaves under the ground. But because we do not see the leaves, we say, oh, it's just the roots and the leaves are up. That is why each part of the baobab tree would be medicine to us, would be healing. no part of the baobab tree would damage you. Even the rotten part would still help us to get something. You know, the ones that they say there is a disease that come in the baobab and it's gone bad. Even that part is also medicine. No part of the baobab. So when I was making this project, this stuff that I'm saying, the reason why I appreciate your organization so much is that I have never decoded this deep into the baobab tree. The one that I used to share a lot is I travel from the southern region of Ghana to the northern region of Ghana to go visit my grandparents every vacation. And I see baobab trees all the way from the south to the north of Ghana. And I keep questioning myself. They all have different characteristics. We're all human. You meet a baobab tree that looks like a woman without one hand. In the real life, we have human beings who have one hand, who have one leg. You see a baobab tree look like somebody is running. In human life, we all run. You see baobab, so they're all different. It's a whole world on its own. So what is happening with taking baobab trees is another form of enslavement that is happening. And our generation now cannot do anything about it but look at it like, oh, it's all, this is the West, always they're taking our stuff. No, we have to find a way to do it. This baobab tree is creating a lot of people to research what is a baobab tree, why is it a tree of life? And once you start searching on something, another person would also start to search for it. It happens around us. Then everyone starts to search. As long as the message is on the internet, we're still going to find it. Georgia is taking our baobab trees. But I want us to know that they are not taking only our baobab tree like we know it as an object. They're taking ourselves and they're bringing us this horror. So don't worry about our leaders. Some of them are so selfish that they cannot. When I say our leaders, I mean the politicians. Don't worry about them. Some of them would never do what is right. That is how they are created. They are created not to do right. So they would, even if they get the chance, Ken, you and I, they would go and trade us on the stock market. So whatever happens, let's just know that the spirit of this baobab tree is just like the spirit of the symbols that we see. Each tree that you see them, they say, oh, baobab tree. They are not just trees like any ordinary tree. They are the giants of the trees. And the species of the baobab tree found on the African continent, I think there are about 9 or more of the species of baobab tree. Why are you only taking the one from Africa? There are people in how many continents? 6, 7 continents? But you didn't go to any of these continents to take these people. You went to Africa. And now the baobab tree, you're going also in Africa to take these ones. And when you see people like of African descent of everywhere in the world, you just see somebody and you be like, oh, this guy look like a Zulu person. This guy looks like an Ashanti person, Hausa person. Because we're the same people and scattered all over the world. The same will happen to the tree. They would use it for so many reasons. And the part that I don't know how, I believe in this one, that the baobab itself, the name came from, the merchants of the Egypt and all of that. But that story we did not hear about how the baobab tree, related to Egypt and how the merchants would go and do business with it. And some are saying that is how we got the name, the baobab. But depending on your accent, you can see the baobab is all the same spelling. But the botanical name is what I don't like. because the botanical name for the baobab tree is of a Western person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so why would something deeply rooted in Africa be the name of something? So it's a form of slavery, but the same way I'm telling you, we artists have to be very strategic in how we put or feed our audience with our message. Sometimes we have a very deep message, and to give, let's find a way to give it little by little, little by little. The tree is already erected in the Van Cortlandt Park, which is the park that houses about 50,000 people in the summer and more. Each night, there are some nights where people would go and watch movies under the sky. So in a total of a year that the baobab tree would be on the park, only God knows how many physical human beings would see it and how many would search for it, how many would find these stories of enslavement of the baobab trees to Georgia and other parts of the world. When you say something is consuming more water and you are selling it, that is like, come on, the baobab tree, yes, absorbs water, of course. The camel absorbs water. The camel drinks water and keeps some of the water in her. You go all over the West, you will see places they say, oh, this is a reservoir. You see a big water just reserved for something. But you go even in the forest, the land advocates will tell us, you see a little pond with water, it's all accountable for. Why is it that you're making it a big deal that the baobab is taking a lot of space? Baobabs don't grow within our houses. They grow, they have their own life far away from us. The farmers have been polluted, just like how slavery started, that they would be polluted. Oh, it's taking too much of your land, and it's taking all of your water. It's taking your nutrients. You know what? We just give you $600 to take care of your family, and we'll uproot this tree for you so you become free. Just like the slavery that started, they came with bottle of Coke and wine and tricking our people. Before our people realized, they've been selling their own cousins and nieces, and it was too late. There's a story of how of two people who were brothers, and then they came to capture them. This I heard from one of my spiritual sheikh on a story on how the relationship and how deeply we should love our brothers and sisters from the West. They said we were two brothers sitting, and then they came to capture them for slavery. One of them knew how to chant and knew the spiritual, had memorized the spiritual verses of how to vanish and stay unseen, how do you stay invisible. So they did that chant and they stayed invisible. The other one could not memorize it. As they tried to do it, they captured them. But that one they captured knew the wisdom of medicine, knew the wisdom of business, athletics, and all of that. That DNA was embedded on the one that was captured, just like the brother. But the only thing missing was the spiritual verses of how to stay invisible. So this person was captured and sent to the West. And they were able to survive and have children through plantations, through the journeys. That is why you have a lot of blacks are the first to do this in medicine. They're the first to create this. They're the first to create that, because of that one ancestor who had that DNA in them. The one that stayed in Africa had that connection to spirituality more. So if there is a spiritual connection, people from the West will go to Africa, and then they would get to Africa and be like, wow, I just find my connection to spirituality. And then we both meet. So this is how the whole story of the baobab tree is. I'm not looking at it on the aspect of only politicians, because like Ken, you mentioned, those politicians are only there to serve the people, but they want the people to serve them. And we know it's
Yeah.
a global problem that the West wanted to be an Africa problem. So we personally, individuals, have to find ways not to be tricked and give up what we have. How much baobab does the baobab tree drink of water? It absorbs, but is that enough for you to cut it down? And when you cut it down, are you going to use it to make the soup? When we were little, the leaves of the baobab tree, we call them, they make soup with it. Kuka. If people be watching, that's kuka. And they say kuka looks very unpleasant to see, but it's very nourishable when you eat. So they used to, our parents will just create words and say, oh, if you want to go to Jannah, like heaven, you have to eat this food. This is the food of the heavens. Because the food, this is very delicious. It's of the heavens. It has all the nutrients you need, and we'll be excited and eat it. So it's the same thing. We have to just support the baobab tree as an individual human being and find ways to go around it. And thank you for all the good work you're doing. I don't want to take all your time, but
no, actually, that's the question I wanted to ask you, TJ. So you're leading into it. I'm going to prompt you a little bit more, because for me personally, as a Black American, growing up with African storybooks and having this dream coming and living my life in Africa all my childhood, when I finally got to the Kenyan coast, I had to jump out of the car to wrap my arms around the baobab, and of course the Kenyans in the car with me thought I was crazy. I was like, you can't understand. I've been waiting my whole life to see this landscape, to see all these baobabs. And actually, I guess my question is actually both for Ken and TJ. Like, as artists, as creatives, we have so much power to be able to educate society and change some of these things, which is going on in our communities that are unfavorable, that are, a detriment to our people, a detriment to our society. So what do you guys think we can do as creatives to stop this? Because, oh, and I just want to address a person that had a question in the comments. About why they were cutting down the baobab. So in Kilifi, from what I understand, they wanted to build some sort of a park, a nature park or something of the sort. So they wanted to export these baobabs to recreate the African landscape. So I suppose, you can take our giraffe, you can take our elephants, you can take our baobabs, and then you can have of Africa in your Western city without having to go and actually travel to Africa and interact with the people and benefit the Africans. So it seems like that was the goal. Has been stopped now, but at the same time, with all of the corruption that we do deal with on the continent, has it really been stopped, or has it been somebody else been paid off and it's been pushed under the rug? And then my other question would be, like, how many other African countries is this happening in, where nobody has said anything, or it has not been reported to a paper or an online source for us to even know like that it's happening? Because it's not a lot of money. They're cutting these trees down for like $600, $800, $900. Like, it's not even a lot of money to cut down something that's 500 years old. So what do you guys think that we should be doing as creatives to stop this, to educate people about this, and also to maybe even like educate the farmers about all of the nutrients, all of the possibilities? What are your guys' opinions on how we should be addressing this as creators?
Ken, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. With the baobab tree, I'm thinking with an issue that goes deeper than the baobab tree itself, because it's more of us not knowing the value of things, of what we have, until these people start taking them, because no one talks about the baobabs, the minerals, the animals. That's when we start talking about them, and I think that's the whole issue. I think we should start.
Sorry, Ken. Hold on one. Ken, your signal is a bit wishy-washy. Let's get you reconnected.
Is it better now?
Hold on one second. You're coming back in. All right. I think we've got you back. You were going out. You were evaporating before.
How
Okay.
is it now?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's a little bit better.
yeah,
Okay.
you're back.
Well, what I was saying is, as Africans, we need to start identifying all these things we have and start teaching each other about them, sharing this knowledge. Because, for instance, today's generation doesn't know that you can actually cook the baobab leaves and they're nutritious. Most of us don't know about that. I actually learned that today. So I'm thinking we lack the knowledge of what we have. We don't know how valuable it is, and that's why we let these people come in and give us these distorted messages and lies to tell us that this is actually not good for you. Yeah, so I would think that educating ourselves and others more about this would help us more.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, I would add on to it by saying, as artists, we take more responsibility than anyone else. But because we are visionaries and we bring out all these ideas, I want us to look at it on a more practical level as how do we, it's like you mentioned, it's between $600 and $900. So to do away with the whole tree, that you would have a land. Maybe as artists we could come together to start thinking about how much, if it's in Kenya, how much is this in the Kenyan currency for a farmer to be able to make this amount of money within a year. So from this own tree, because like Ken mentioned, and I mentioned again and again, that every part of the baobab tree is useful. So how do we train and find other people like scientists, medicine people, nutritionists, drink companies, beverages, all these people to bring out ideas on how we can educate these farmers and say, you have one baobab tree in your farm. Do you know how much that is worth? Only the leaves. You can uproot all the leaves every year and sell that. And this is what you're going to get annually. And the back of the tree, if you take it out, it's going to rebuild itself. And then we can just design all of this as part of a process and say, okay, for the back of the tree, for this, let's say a 20 feet of the back of the tree of a baobab, this is what money you can get from that. And the soil around it, like we do it in bricks, we level it one by one and say, okay, even with the branches of the baobab tree, with the fruits, with all of this, we know it's medicine 100%. But how do we break this down for the farmer to know that, wow, it means I have $600 in my farm every year. Why would I have them take the whole tree for $600 when I can have this tree in my farm and make $600 every year? And then it would fill my property. On water, how do we address the water aspect of it? We also do another education. As artists, we would find other people like-minded to come together on the same tables. We draw, we bring out ideas. So we need maybe a physician, we need this and that to come together. And then they make even clothing out of it. They make dye out of it. How do we make this person know that The baobab tree is absorbing water, but at the same time, it needs very less from you to be able to survive. The baobab tree is thousands of years, and they don't need human beings to have them live. So it's like you have free money on your land. See it as this is a gift, and this is a good thing, but I'm going to say it regardless of how we all see it. Our people love to hear what would make them rich. That is why the politicians are using them to gain power, because they give them money. You go vote for me, I give you some money, you spend it now, tomorrow I'll reap that from you again. So let's find ways to educate our own people on how to make money from this tree that needs very less from you. You make drinks, you make that. Okay, you take it to the market. If there are some companies around the world, yes, of course, we all are one, the West and the African, everywhere we are one. How do we sell some of these products abroad? How do we connect these companies that are abroad to these local farmers to get from them? If they're able to, because the whole problem is money, right? So how do we make them gain money from this tree? Then we go back on the spiritual aspect. Yeah, so
I just want to address we've got a good conversation going on in the chat here. So just a very quick search on Google. Baobab leaves, bark, and seeds have been used to treat almost any disease, including tuberculosis, fever, microbial infections, malaria, diarrhea, anemia, and toothache. So how do we have a country such as Kenya where people are still dying of malaria, but we have all of these baobabs which can be treating that malaria, but we're cutting them down and selling them for, $1,000 or less? It's really quite an issue. And I agree with you, TJ, when you say that we as creatives have more responsibility, because everybody loves song, everybody loves picture, everybody loves t-shirt, everybody loves artwork. Everyone wants to consume artwork in some form, whether it's watching a show, whether it's listening to music. Even from childhood, we've all grown up with these songs and nostalgic theme songs. Somebody wrote that, somebody sat down and created that song, and it's become a viral, tradition. So as creatives, we do have this burden of making sure that we're using our talent for something that is going to be important to our community and something that's going to...
You're breaking up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? My time to break up.
Sorry.
Yeah, am I back?
There's this noise that comes in the background.
I think there's an echo behind you.
Okay. I've got everything off. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Oh no. Now I can. We're trying to have this live across a couple of continents, so everybody's Wi-Fi being going at the same time. All right. Let me know if you guys in the chat can hear me. I think Ken is disconnected for the time.
Yeah. Luke also from Trinidad says he can hear you.
Okay, good. Good job. All right. Hopefully Ken will be able to join us back in a moment. But yes, we have such a responsibility as creatives to really make sure that we're, pushing the right information, because the wrong information will always be used against us, right? So we have to make sure that, we are putting forth into our communities to help educate and solve some of these problems. And honestly, it seems like the lack of education is really the problem with what we're facing with the baobab situation. I think people just really honestly do not know. And as you said, they've been sold this idea of, oh, well, the baobab is costing you water, so you need to cut it down. And that's the problem that you're having on your farm. So people don't have the right information about what benefits are, you know, they're able to take from the baobab, because it's definitely going to be greater to you than, you know, $600, $800, $900. Harvest it and use it in your own family. You know, you're going to save yourself a lot of issues with your health, with your children's health. You know, I didn't even know, TJ, about this this soup. You said that you didn't know about that.
It's one of the best soup. It's made with, the traditional one is made with cow fat, like the oil or shea butter. Shea butter, yeah, that's with local leaves, with local seeds. The seeds.
Okay.
Yeah, that is very traditional, very, very good. Like it's very northern of places where baobab is. You grind them just like powder, and you make all your seasoning. You add it to it. You mix it. It would have a little bit of like slimy. And yeah, it's very good, and also it's been sometimes boiled and steamed. Oh, yeah. So each time I go back, I bring a lot of stuff around the tree, so I'm always around it.
Yeah, it's always been an important symbol for us at Kijiji Sana. So even from our very first meetings, you can go back and you can see they all have baobab trees and baobab trees in the background. And then of course this thing started happening with our trees being cut down in the coast where we are, and I'm like crying, riding in the matatu, crying. People are like, "What's?" I'm like, "They're cutting the trees, don't you see?" So yeah, you know, I think if people are watching and they have ideas around some of these baobab issues, I did see somebody in the comments saying that they're working on solving some similar issues in Tanzania. Let's please feel free to reach out if anyone is aware of any environmental organizations that we can also, you know, partner with to help spread this awareness and spread this knowledge. I think Ken is coming back in.
Sorry.
So are you without steamer? Okay. It's okay. So yeah, we're just talking about the baobab still. I don't want to take up all of TJ's time, but I do want to ask about your process with this like public sculpture first. I'm so excited. I can't wait till my next trip to New York so that I can come and see it. So before you go, please let us know a little bit more about the symbolism that you used in the sculpture and kind of how this project came to be, because, you know, I think we don't have such things in Kilifi. We don't have such opportunities for public sculpture. So we are working on some collaborations with a new sculpture park that wants to open. So if you can kind of give us some ideas. We do have some creatives, some of our members who are interested in sculpture and in creating things. But tell us a little bit about how this process came to be, and also what are some of the challenges that you faced, so maybe we know what to look out for when we are trying to work on our.
Yeah. Challenges, most of that came from the technical aspect of it and the shades of color. Because I start with the color, because on the drawing or in my vision, I had it such that the colors that you're seeing on the baobab tree rotates or starts from the color dark brown, from the dark brown. And then the shades begin to loosen up to different skin tones. And then it moves to yellow. From yellow, it moves to all the orange, green, and then go through violet and all the color cycle. So, and this is on wood, so laminated wood. So how to get that shades was very problematic. We had to do a lot of testing on that. So the color shades was one, because I didn't want it to be misinterpreted from the beginning. I wanted the central color shades to be from the dark brown and have it fade into the other shades of colors. So depending on where you see the tree, you might not see the brown, but there is a part that has the dark brown. That is the beginning of my color wheel for that. Also, the size of it is also one with the land, the tiles that you see on the ground. So the floor is broken tiles. I wanted to use something that is, in Africa, we used to use that a lot, broken tiles to do our restrooms, to do, even the floors of the houses, because it's a little bit cheaper than you going to buy a whole box of tile. You just go to the dealer and you get the broken ones, which you pay less. So I wanted it to be something that connects me to my own beginning of how to make something beautiful regardless of your income. So I advise them that even if we can be able to get the tiles, I want us to use the broken tiles to have that connection of poverty and how beauty can come out of that. So, because if you make it too solid, then somebody with less fund would think it's very difficult to get it. And the shades of colors on the ground was also one that I wanted to be more earth tone, but that is not a big deal as long as it's very bright. I wanted it to be bright, but at the same time, not like a fluorescent yellow kind of something very earthy. Because the very fluorescent ones are expensive, and I wanted it to go on a low income to just make people know that they can make this wherever they. With the trees itself, the technical aspect of it is very difficult, because you want to make it durable that kids could be able to climb. And this whole idea is from the same baobab tree, that it's used as a marketplace, as a meeting ground. People use the roots as benches to sit and to make it like tables to sell. And so I wanted it to have that space of comfort where people could sit on it and have a conversation. So that is another challenge. How do we make it more durable? We're using wood. How do we make it more durable? So in between the woods, we have some metals that would hold it. But regardless of all of this, these are materials, because it's a temporal sculpture, would be here for 1 year. Wherever you are making it, you could, whatever material you get. And we have recycled metal and all of this. So whatever that is we're able to get based on the climate of where you are, we can find a way to make it work. But my main concern is on the branches was that regardless of your height, you should not be able to reach the branch, because it's in a park, people would want to swing on it. And although we want them to have a friendly sculpture, at the same time, we don't want people liability issues to be jumping and holding. But the seats, it's how do we make it more secure for seating? The elements in the tree, I've mentioned a lot on the Adinkra symbols, which are symbols of beauty, supremacy of God. There is Sankofa. There is the ladder of death, which means the life is a cycle. When you go up and you come down, you go in, but like life never ends. if we don't see you today, you are in the grave, you are in another world. So the ladder of death has that, mimics that aspects of life, that regardless of how much you fall, you're still going to rise. So it has several meanings. Some people would just see it as the ladder of death, which means everyone is going to taste death. But it has conceptual meanings in our own lives. One thing we should also know that Baba Adinkra symbols are not only, the meanings of Adinkra symbols are not only traditional, they also apply to urban and modern life. That if you see one that says the supremacy of God, it doesn't only attribute to God, but it also attributes to leadership and supremacy in any field that you find yourself in. How can you be the leader or the God of this organization and still be fair in distribution of anything that you have to distribute to them? On the top, I have Metro cards, which is very significant to New York, because I'm looking at it as a symbol that transports people everywhere in New York. Many a time in the Bronx, you can live, or in the city itself, you can live for many years without driving because you have a Metro card. And looking at it from a much more deeper level, the Metro card, it's a connection of urban and tradition. The baobab tree, it's traditional. The Adinkra symbols, traditional, and how I'm connecting this traditional to something that is more urban to tell a story of addressing our ancestors. The transportation system uses the swipe to take you to various places. Our ancestors have traveled, so I wanted something that would mimic travel, have traveled from one end to another, but they are in a cycle of continuation. So how do we relate to them? And it is a big honor because it's right at the burial ground. And I have a friend, Alicia, doing another project. She's a performer, a dancer, doing another project in another burial ground, which we would be going to be a part of to support it. But I think it is a wave that is coming now for everyone is beginning to acknowledge ancestors, which means it is a good thing that great grandkids are able to acknowledge ancestors, which is a very good thing. That is a source of energy, source of strength. Whoever acknowledges ancestors it tends to be a good and there is a way the proverb says, like, if you acknowledge those that came before you, you would also be acknowledged when you also go. That is, just a little bit decoding of the tree, but it's all about love. How do we create a space to celebrate ancestors at the same time celebrate our own self through the words of Martin Luther King? It's there somewhere in the concept of the piece where he did the I Have a Dream speech. So I reference that speech in the concept as well. So it's not just the tree and symbols, but it's also referencing a statement that is very popular in the US.
Well, I really want to say that I'm so grateful for this work that you're doing. And it's really wonderful to see you working towards bridging these gaps in the diaspora. And I think that as African people, a lot of our issues come from constantly trying to separate ourselves and not realizing we're dealing with the same issues even now. As we were talking about earlier, slavery is still happening. It's got a different hat, it's got a different name, it's got a different face, but we're still fighting the same battles around the world collectively as a people. And so, you know, I really just want to say that I appreciate what you're doing so much. And I cannot wait to go to New York to see this sculpture. I just want to say it's really beautiful, but as soon as I saw that you could sit on it, I really was like, oh, this is great, because this is also going to become a piece that old people, young people, everybody interacts with, and everybody starts to take those memories and create those nostalgic moments by interacting with it. So bravo. How long did you have this baobab in your mind, by the way, before it came into?
I have to look for the sketch, but it's been in my sketchbook for a long time. I have this recycled sketchbook made of recycled material that a friend brought to me from Mexico. So sometime when I have that, I want to put ideas that you know how it is, ideas that are very deep and expensive to make, but I just envision that one day it would be made. It's been maybe over 5 years. It's been in my sketchbook, but the whole process of making it happen took a year, with all the permits and the construction with Beam Center, its fellows. The fellows played a very, very significant role. They did all the hard work, all the technical aspects of it to make sure that the tree is what I envision. And each time I go to visit to see the process, it's exactly what I want. And they even go beyond to make it a more memorable one. The seat that you mentioned, it's in 3 levels. So little kids would sit, and then medium, and there is an adult side. So it's in 3 levels as well.
You should be very proud. We have lied to you. I told you we would talk to you for like an hour, but
I know. Yeah, at 1 p.m. is when my day starts on this Thursday. Yeah, I have to be in another school, so 1 p.m. is when at least I have an hour to set up. But it's been a great pleasure. I enjoy being here. This is
apologizing. We have lost power. We call it steamer. We have lost.
Okay. That's Ghana. We say Doomso. Nigeria say Nepa.
So he's lost power. So he's saying his deepest apologies. But it has been such a pleasure to talk to you. I hope that we can perhaps do this again. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. And I also just want to say thank you for everybody that was able to tune in and become part of this conversation. We at Kijiji Chat are actively working on environmental projects with our creatives to start to work towards spreading some of this awareness. So if anything that we spoke about today has struck you or moved you, please feel free to reach out to TJ, reach out to us. We are very happy to welcome people who are also working on some similar projects or wanting to become a part of anything that we're doing, because the baobabs are very, very important to us as people and as a culture, and also to our environment. And deforestation is a very big problem. So if anything that we spoke about, resonated with you, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And also, everybody, please go to TJ's Reels, because there are some really, really beautiful videos of not only the sculpture, but the whole installation of the sculpture as well. And if you are in New York, go and see it and tag him, because it's a really beautiful piece, and it's really going to spread some great awareness about this issue. So I would say, thank you, Asante San. Have a wonderful day, and we hope to talk to you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you for the time.